Welcome to the EV Brief, your weekly window into the fast-moving world of electric vehicles. I'm Tolga Poyraz, and this is our very first episode, July 13 to 19, 2026. On the surface, it looked like an ordinary summer week, but in the birthplace of the automobile, history was made. An American EV maker was rocked by bankruptcy rumors. Chinese brands landed right in the heart of Europe, and in the world of batteries, the rules of a brand new era officially came into force. In this episode, we break down the biggest electric vehicle stories from around the globe. From Germany's history turning point and the fierce Tesla versus BYD rivalry, to fresh new model launches and a genuine breakthrough in battery technology. We have organized everything by topic, so feel free to use the timestamps in the description to jump to whatever interests you most. So buckle up, because last week the EV world had its foot flat on the accelerator. Let's get into it. Our first stop is Germany, and honestly it will be unfair to start anywhere else, because in the country where the automobile was invented, where the internal combustion engine is almost a point of national pride, last week's data delivered a genuine first. According to June 2026 figures released by ADAC, Germany's largest automobile club, fully electric cars, battery electric vehicles, became the single best-selling powertrain in the country's history for the very first time. That means they outsold gasoline, diesel and hybrids alike. Let's look at the numbers. In June, Germany registered 84,057 fully electric cars. That's a massive 78% jump compared to the same month last year. Battery EVs took a single powertrain market share of over 28%, edging past hybrids, petrol and diesel one by one. Now, why does this matter so much? Because this isn't just any market. This is the home of Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen and Porsche. Electric power taking the throne in the fortress of the combustion engine is a powerful symbol of just how far Europe's auto industry has shifted. Through the first half of the year, EV registrations in Germany climbed roughly 48%, reaching about 368,000 units. And this isn't limited to Germany. Shaking off the gloom from the start of the year, electric vehicles are now climbing across many European markets. The bottom line, Europe is well down a road with no turning back. Let's zoom out from Germany to the bigger picture. In global EV sales, the most talked about headline of this week was a battle between two giants, Tesla and BYD. In the second quarter of 2026, China's BYD reclaimed the crown as the world's top seller of fully electric vehicles. Here are the numbers. BYD delivered 557,090 battery electric passenger cars in the quarter. Tesla over the same period delivered 480,126. The gap around 77,000 vehicles, or about 16%. But here's the interesting twist. That Tesla figure is actually the company's strongest second quarter ever. Deliveries were up roughly 25% year over year. So Tesla isn't shrinking, BYD is simply growing much faster. BYD has raised its overseas sales target to 1.5 million vehicles for 2026. And it has now outsold Tesla in Europe for several months in a row. So what about American automakers? Their second quarter was far less rosy. Ford sold just 9,746 EVs in the US, a drop of more than 40% year over year. As sales of the discontinued F-150 Lightning collapsed, General Motors sat second in the EV-only rankings with around 25,900 units behind Tesla. And in a striking development, Rivian is now outselling Ford in EVs and has raised its full year delivery outlook to between 65,000 and 70,000 vehicles. Even there is a rising giant, India. Last month, total EV sales in India, including scooters, three-wheelers, cars and buses, crossed 300,000 units, up 63% year over year. Electric passenger cars alone topped 31,000 units, a jump of 106%, more than doubling. The market leader with over 38% share is Tata Motors, and the capital, Delhi, is aiming to accelerate the shift with a new EV incentive policy that took effect on July 1st. So the global picture is clear. China is out in front, Europe is electrifying fast, India is making a powerful entrance, and the traditional American automakers are struggling to keep pace. Now, to our favorite part, the new cars. Last week brought three important models to the European market. First, and perhaps the most aggressive, the Xpeng L03. On July 16th, at a ceremony in Munich, Chinese maker Xpeng launched its new electric SUV coupe, the L03 in Europe. And the price tag is a declaration of war. It starts at 35,600 euros in Germany and 34,990 euros in France and Belgium. With that pricing, the L03 takes direct aim at Tesla Model Y, undercutting it by as much as $10,000 in some markets. On the technical side, a 58.3 kWh LFP battery for up to 445 kilometers of WLTP range, and a rear motor producing 180 kilowatts or about 241 horsepower. It is the clearest sign yet that Chinese makers haven't just arrived in Europe, they have marched right up to the castle gates. The second model comes from a completely different philosophy, the Volvo EX60. On July 16th, Volvo began the first customer deliveries of its new fully electric midsize SUV in Sweden. And this is no ordinary car for Volvo. It is the first fully electric vehicle to be designed, developed and manufactured in Sweden. So what's its headline? Range. The EX60 promises a best-in-class WLTP range of up to 810 kilometers, around 503 miles. On top of that, on a 400 kilowatt fast charger, it can go from 10 to 80% in as little as 16 minutes and add up to 340 kilometers of range in just 10 minutes. A direct answer to range anxiety. The third model is for the value-focused buyer, the Kia EV2. On July 16th, Kia put the long-range version of its compact EV on sale. With a larger 61 kWh battery, WLTP range rises to 453 kilometers, in other words, 281 miles, and pricing starts at 33,490 euros. The affordable EV segment is heating up fast. Three models, three different strategies. Xpeng hunting market share with aggressive pricing, Volvo playing premium with range and engineering, and Kia targeting the masses with an affordable price. And all three hit the stage in the same week. As the Xpeng story shows, one of the biggest undercurrents of the week was the global expansion of Chinese automakers. And it isn't limited to Europe. According to news that broke on July 13th, another Chinese giant, Dongfeng, is preparing to sell its electric vehicles in Canada. In other words, Chinese makers are knocking on North America's door too. But this expansion has run straight into a wall of policy. The European Union is applying countervailing duties on China-made electric vehicles, rates that reach 17% for BYD, 18.8% for Geely, and up to around 35% for SAIC. Beijing, for its part, is signaling that it will scale back direct tax incentives to ease trade tensions. And here's the clever part. Chinese makers are finding creative ways around that wall. Some, for example, plan to set up production in countries like Morocco, which has a free trade agreement with the EU, allowing their cars to enter Europe tariff-free. In short, the global EV race is no longer just a technology contest, it's also a game of geopolitical chess. Now let's get to the heart of it, the batteries. Because last week saw one of those developments that most people overlooked, but which could prove one of the most important of all in the long run. As of July 1st, China's first national standard for solid-state batteries, officially coded GB/T 43568-2026, came into force, and it landed squarely on the industry's agenda with news on July 13th. The standard's title, Solid-State Batteries for Electric Vehicles, Part 1, Terminology and Classification. So why does this matter? Because until now, the term solid-state battery had become a marketing buzzword. Everyone slapped the label on their own product. The new standard brings order. From now on, for a battery to be truly called solid-state, its liquid electrolyte content must be under 5% and it must pass a set of strict tests. This standard is just the first of a planned 4-part series. Future parts will define performance, safety, and lifespan criteria, and this isn't happening in a vacuum. Companies like the Chinese maker Xpeng are already racing to build gigawatt-scale solid battery factories. But let's add a dose of reality. The experts are cautious, even if small batch production begins in 2026 and 2027. True solid-state batteries probably won't reach widespread commercial use until around 2030. So the revolution is coming, just not overnight. Let's shift to another major axis of the EV world, autonomous driving, and once again Tesla is in the lead role. Tesla recently expanded its autonomous ride-hailing service Robotaxi to Miami. For now, the service runs only in selected western and central parts of the city. Downtown Miami and Miami Beach aren't yet in the covered zone. The most notable detail, the Miami fleet is operating unsupervised. That means there's no Tesla employee sitting behind the wheel inside the vehicles. It's a continuation of the unsupervised operations that began in Dallas and Houston back in April. Tesla aims to expand the service to roughly a dozen US states by the end of the year. But there's a flip side to this optimistic picture, and that flip side ties directly into Tesla's financial agenda, which is exactly what our next segment is about. The most dramatic moment in the EV world last week came from an American maker, Lucid. On Tuesday, July 14th, shares of the luxury electric sedan maker Lucid cratered. The reason reports that the company had hired restructuring advisor Alex Partners and was weighing options including bankruptcy protection or going private. At one point during the day, the stock plunged as much as 57%, closing down around 40%. Lucid pushed back hard, calling claims that it was considering a bankruptcy filing completely false. According to the company, Alex Partners was brought in to optimize operations, cut costs, and secure the launch of a new mid-size model. Still, the picture is serious. The company had posted a net loss of over $1 billion in a single quarter earlier this year. This week, all eyes turned to another giant, Tesla, which reported its second quarter results on July 22nd, and investors aren't in the best of moods. Nearly 300 questions flooded the company's Q&A portal, and the most upvoted ones paint a striking picture. Retail investors now want Elon Musk to explain not the grand vision, but why that vision keeps missing its schedule. Robotaxi, full self-driving, and the humanoid robot Optimus. The core complaint is that almost none of the promises are arriving on time. So despite record delivery numbers, Tesla is facing a test of trust. Finally, let's look at the backbone that makes all of this possible, charging infrastructure. Because the more EVs that sell, the more critical the network that powers them becomes. The United States recently crossed an important threshold. The number of public charging ports nationwide passed 250,000, more than 73,000 of them fast DC chargers. And across the Atlantic, the UK has pushed the button on installing more than 3,000 new on-street charging sockets funded by the government. The infrastructure is growing quietly but steadily. And with that, we reached the end of the week of July 13th to 19th. To recap, electric took the crown in Germany, BYD cemented its global lead, 3 new models landed in Europe, China formalized its battery standard, Tesla hit the gas in Miami while facing tough investor questions, and Lucid fought for survival. Next week's biggest items already set. Tesla's second quarter results on July 22nd. We will dig into those in the next episode. If you enjoyed this brief, subscribe and turn on notifications to keep up with the electric world. And tell me, what do you think was the biggest story of the week? Let's talk in the comments. Take care, keep your battery charged, and I'll see you in the next episode.